Namaste everyone. I hope you are doing well. I'm Sushamita, and thanks a lot for all the love and support you have shown to all my videos so far. You had also asked that if I can record a video about my journey with different treatments with vitiligo, which I have already done in Hindi. And thanks for the love and support. It has reached close to 5 lakh views now. So I thought, why not make a video in English also? So here we go. So like most of you might know by now, I had vitiligo started in my life when I was just around 9 years old. I got a small patch under my eyes, and then it spread all over my face, hands, legs, and even some parts of my body. So that way, around 75% of my body was kind of covered with white patches. And then, of course, the journey with treatments, prayers, temples, all started. So that way, if you see, we tried many treatments. We went to a pediatrician in the beginning, and then it went on to meet different doctors from Ayurveda, allopathy, uh, dermatologist, skin specialist, all the doctors in the discipline of finding out who actually work in the space of dermatology and overall holistic medicine. Then we slowly came across a treatment called narrowband UVB, and which is also called as NB-UVB, and that in a way kind of worked on my face and also some part of my hands. I have had white patches here, like you can see in the image also. I had white patches in my hands in these areas, and now if you see, most of it is recovered except for the ones on the bony areas, right? So that way I've had vitiligo, and even now I have, just that I'm like partially healed on my face. You can see it's gone, and yeah, it has been stable also, right? So what I would also say that along with my treatment, which is narrowband UV, which worked in my case, if I we also followed like a specific, like a lifestyle. It's not some strict diet or lifestyle, but reflecting on what is the lifestyle that worked for me. Like as a pattern, if you see, many people with vitiligo, for many people, as a pattern I have also seen, since many people interact with me, come seek out support, talk to me. So if you see, citrus, which is lemon, any fruit from the citrus family, and also tamarind, anything sour, that in some cases may not suit, right? Some people, again, it's not that it's hard and fast for everyone the same way, but most people with vitiligo have seen that, right? So when I noticed in myself that whether it's that or raw mango, pickles, right? So I was having that on a very regular basis in my teens, especially. That time I had widespread vitiligo too. It was not the cause, but at least reducing having that, whether it's pickles, which is also sour, khatta in Hindi we say, and also any like citrus items, tamarind and all, I kind of cut it down, brought it to moderation. And then even curd, I would have lots of curd, especially curd irrespective of the freshness, even the curd which grows sour in taste. So I loved sour items, many of us do. But actually bringing it down, having a moderation, with my food, even gluten I stopped, because personally, roti items, maybe I'm more inclined towards rice items. So I completely, down on roti. Dairy also very, balanced. Of course, maybe not much into milk, coffee, tea personally, but I'm more into maybe having occasionally ice creams, chocolates, and so on, right? So yeah, but do what suits for you. I've also made a video on by identifying and understanding the trigger patterns for vitiligo, and also another video around how you can go about in terms of the diet for vitiligo, right? So the link is in the description. Do check it out. On the other hand, so our journey with treatments continued. So what happened is we went for around like lesser than a year for UVB. It was around 8 to 10 months, I suppose. We like it. Whatever places showed improvement, even in my legs, in my feet, it is still there. But the upper, the bony area, like how it's there in the hand, the feet area, it still has. There are white patches, right? So then we kept trying, like with like UVB narrowband. What happened was, after one point we started something called as PUA, PUVA, which is solarin, which included solarin tablets, right? Where I had to take a solarin tablet sometime before the UV exposure. In UVB, that was not required. It was plainly exposure that helped me a lot. But PUA, in my case, it didn't help, right? And again, UVB also in some cases has worked. In some cases, for people, it hasn't worked, right? It depends. And also, some people say that it patches come back, right? For me, in one of my homeopathy treatments that happened, my patches fully went off face from the face and it came back. But in UVB, it didn't, because I felt that I have kind of figured out what works for me in terms of health, lifestyle, and what doesn't work for me. So that way, my lifestyle has been pretty moderate. I'm not too strict about my diet, but I'm pretty watchful about what goes in, right? To a major extent. I do have my cheat diets too, but most of the times my diet is clean, right? And my habits are also, to a major extent, they are clean. And vitiligo in a way has, made me a very kind of, like a health conscious, more than conscious. It has, helped me align with good health. So I would like to say that way, not glorifying it, but yeah, it keeps me naturally, it makes me keep in check with what is good for me and what is not, right? And one more thing which really has helped me over the years is taking care of my mental health. So that has really helped me. So now going back to the treatments, so then I also like we continued with PUA. It didn't work out, so we dropped it. Even UVB we stopped after a point, because what happens is when you go for UVB exposure, there is also some form of tanning which happens on the skin. Even I got tanned. Now now it has reduced with over a period of time. My skin has gradually, balanced with the skin tone and all. It has gotten balanced, but ideally at that point in time, if you see, I grew darker than what my complexion was. And uh, and and slowly with time it became fine. I didn't do anything specifically to lower the tan. And one more thing is, like during the UVB treatment, also what you will notice is, like whenever there is a like whenever the exposure happens, so the exposure is usually given for a small time period, starting with few seconds, and they raise it slowly. The duration, it is purely done under the supervision of a doctor. Some people use handheld lamps at home, but I would recommend it to be done in a doctor's clinic. So every city has more or less has clinics where dermatologists or skin specialists have a UVB setup in their clinic, right? It's a tubeless like setup, if I have to put it in simple words. But that is the setup, and there is a prescribed amount of time where a person needs to stand in front of it. There's a particular way of doing it, not something very difficult, but yeah, it must be done under supervision. And then what I noticed was, I noticed that the white patch started becoming, wherever in my face and all, it started becoming pinkish, right? And it also slowly the pigment started coming, the skin pigment, right? Melanin. And then yeah, then it kind of got integrated. The skin itself got a kind of balanced with the overall skin tone on the face with time. And then like after one point, when UVB had reached a point where like this is how much UVB impacts for me, at least on my face, and these areas didn't get recovered for me also. So that time what happens was, like you get to know, like it's just tanning, but there is no much progress in the on the white patches. So that's when we stopped it. Even PUA we tried and we stopped it. It didn't show results. But ideally, yeah, UVB when done under doctor's, like a doctor's supervision, it usually gives results. In some cases, it hasn't, but in some cases, I've seen it has really given results, like how I have gotten results, right? So that way, it depends from case to case. So now then came the surgical options. So that was one of the last resort. So we tried everything. So for surgical options, I went for this skin grafting, right? So skin grafting is usually done at a, like they take a small, just to do a test patch, they take a small patch from a part of the body where skin is pretty, the skin is pretty, what to say, clear, like it is, the melanin is there, and they take a peel of the, the skin from that side, like a, it becomes like a wound, and then they put it on, they dermabrate the white patch. Like for me, the first one was done here. Here I had a larger white patch. So here it was done. And then if you see, it's more or less, it is acclimatized, like it kind of it worked, the small test patch worked. And even before doing that skin graft, there were certain tests I had to do. Thyroid must be, thyroid must be in check. And also but the vitiligo must be stable for a particular duration of time, say 6 months or 1 year, and then they go for it. The doctor might be the right person to say what are the prerequisites. And then if you see, since it worked, we went for other types of grafting. We did punch grafting on some part of my, on my hands only. It didn't work. It didn't work. Skin grafting worked. And then we went for something called as a melanocyte transplantation. So there also we did a smaller part of it. First, we saw it gave results in my case because my thyroid was pretty stable, and my vitiligo was also stable, right? After I got healed, it was pretty stable. And I would accredit it mostly to overall thing. Of course, treatment worked, but we worked on myself also, like my diet, etc. Mostly I had home food. I cut down on sour items. I cut down on everything which didn't help me. Sour, dairy, anything in context to what worked for me. Similarly, you have to see what works for you, what doesn't work for you, right? So that way, so since it was stable, we went for even a bigger melanocyte transplantation. So in melanocyte transplantation, what happens is, again, like a melanocyte transplantation, how it is different from a skin graft, I would say is skin graft, how much ever skin is taken from a place, the same patches, placed in the place where there is a white patch, right? In melanocyte transplantation, what happens is they might take a smaller patch, like when I did melanocyte transplantation, multiple of my patches were covered. One is the patches. Actually, I had equal patches in this hand, like this one. And then melanocyte transplantation was done here. Right? You can see the skin is a little uneven also. I'll come to that. Similarly, I had, I had patches, bigger patches here. You can see I still have. So, so there, if you see, melanocyte transplantation was done, and one of my right foot and right hand were, feet were, right feet and the right hand was operated, right? So it was a complete, like a procedure under general anesthesia, which went for around anywhere between 4 to 6 hours. And then, of course, I was on bed rest for almost 2 weeks. To, like, my healing almost took 1 month time, overall recovery, because what happens is when they take off skin, that place is anyways, it becomes like a wound, right? Because the skin is peeled off from there. But since my vitiligo has been stable, my thyroid, everything was stable, the skin comes naturally back to the place where the skin was taken off. And then where it is placed, right, like for example, it was placed here, this place is actually dermabrated, right? It is really, like it is dermabrated in a sense where the epidermis, or where the skin can actually be placed. I'm speaking very technically, so a doctor might be able to explain it better. But ideally, if you see, it was dermabrated, and then that skin would be placed here. And again, in transplantation, what happens is, skin melanocyte transplantation, they'll take that skin, and they will also, do a culture. It is like, ideally, the same skin cells, along with the help of a solution, it is made into a larger quantity. I'm putting in very simple words, not technical or medical. And it is, since like a small patches, further with the help of a solution, it is like it becomes little larger in quantity, and it was used in multiple places. But again, after, whether it's skin grafting, melanocyte transplantation, after like the patch is healed, this patch is also given exposure to UVB, right? Because UVB helps in kind of integrating that skin patch across that area. That's how it usually was done. I'm speaking almost about 10-15 years back from now, right? Almost 15, more than 15 years back. So that was the case. It was done here. Right, it is still not so even, right? I guess now with advanced technology, melanocyte transplantation would have grown advanced too, but it is always expensive, right? To be very honest, it was expensive then, and now also I'm sure it is expensive. So yeah, these are the options, right? So melanocyte transplantation, if you ask me, it did show result to an extent. Like you can see, I had patches just like how it is here in this hand, right? But ideally, since I've done, it is kind of covered, but again, it is not 100%. You can still see that it's not even like my other skin. Even UVB recovery was more even than melanocyte transplantation in my case. So that way, now doctors say that it has become much better. But again, you have to discover, explore, and take a call if you want to go. But yeah, for places like hands, legs, and all, if you're really wanting to try, then that is one thing which you can give a shot. Again, it comes with pain, rest, time, you know. You have to give that time for recovery, go for UVB, and of course, there's a lot of cost involved, right? So it's an investment, ideally, and an expense too. So that is what time only says whether something is an investment or an expense, especially when we do trial and error with treatments. So that way, you can give it a shot if you want to, and of course do everything under a doctor's or a dermatologist's guidance. I'm just sharing what I have been through. And then even after then, my treatment journey continued. We went for Siddha Ayurveda, Dhanvantri, many other other modalities of treatments available for vitiligo. Then we came to a point where I was like, I'm not going through any further treatment. Maybe many of you reached that point early. I reached pretty late. Being a very strong voice that this is it. I don't want to go for further treatments. And yeah, at home also it was agreed upon. And then yeah, like of course the journey of acceptance started much before that. But yeah, but somehow the voice became stronger over time. But again, one thing, if you see, if I have to see the positive side of all that going through those treatments, is that had I stopped trying before, then maybe I wouldn't have come across UVB, or maybe I still would have had patches on my face. I'm not saying it's a good or bad thing to have patches on face. It's completely person's choice. But if you really feel like giving a try, for treatments, go for it. But again, if you feel very burdened, you're like, "Arey, rehne do, let it be. I'm okay with how I am," then that's also fine. Even like there are camouflage options for facial vitiligo. Even for hands, there are camouflage creams which are just like makeup creams, right? One can even use that. I've seen people with vitiligo on their face very beautifully covering it with the camouflage creams. In plain English, it's like a makeup cream, right? Like a foundation, like a thicker one. And it was just flawless. I wouldn't even make out that the person has vitiligo or patches on their face. So it's that good. I'll make a separate video on that. But yeah, ideally, there are options, right? And the journey about vitiligo is more about self management, I would say. And most important is mental health management. It's not that I'm perfect. I'm a work in progress, much better than what I was before. But yeah, mental health, if you get, if our mental health is sorted, then most of the things in our life is actually sorted. So that way I would say that, when I say mental health, I've spoken in detail in one of my other videos. But ideally, uh, you know leads to a lot of stress. And it is actually, it gives a lot of physiological and psychological stress, for sure. Though it doesn't impact organs, vitiligo doesn't lead to any functional impairment. On the other hand, it leads to a lot of trauma, when especially a person has it, or when a person is facing through it, going through it, patches are increasing, and the person feels helpless, right? So that time it is very very common to feel traumatized. It is very, I hear you, right? So that way, taking care of our mental health, visiting a therapist, finding the right therapist, what works for you really helps. And for me, my hobbies have really helped. I've been, though I have had a skin condition, tanning, etc. It never stopped me from pursuing hobbies. Like you might have your own hobbies. I love swimming. I love dancing. So I have explored it. Now I'm a mother to a 5.5-year-old child too. But it doesn't stop me from doing what I want, right? Whether it's being conscious about my skin or getting tanned, or if vitiligo might increase or not. No. Actually, hobbies has helped me, kind of release that dopamine or keep me happy in a healthy way. So that way hobbies work. So if you have any hobbies, art, painting, dancing, sports, please go for it. Right? I'm sure you would be already exploring, but yeah, give it full shot, because hobbies act also are therapists in a way, right? And if you want a professional therapist, please go for it too, right? Because because when we actually sort out our mental health, emotions, we sort out almost 90% of our life. Even our health, it reflects on our physical health also. You might be knowing it too, just that we don't speak about it, much openly when it comes to us ourselves, right? So thanks a lot for sitting with me throughout. This was my journey. And if you have any questions, and if you want me to make videos in any other language like Hindi, Tamil, Kannada, etc., Bengali, I can manage. But yeah, do feel free to put in the comment section. I would love to make that video for you. Thanks. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot. Take care.